America's slide into economic oblivion is already starting to accelerate here in 2021. Isn't it fun to live in a rotting, decaying society? The latest economic figures are extremely depressing, but now that freedom of expression has been abolished and the elite has consolidated control over every aspect of our society, we can make sure that better days are just around the corner. We must be willing to accept the new formal, which includes living in tiny houses, snacking worms, and never expressing any independent thought different from official mainstream narratives. Therefore, with this in mind, I will try to share the terrible economic news that we get the most positive light possible. This week, we learned that 965,000 Americans made new claims for unemployment benefits the previous week. The number of people seeking unemployment aid soared last week to 965,000, the most since late August, and evidence that the resurgent virus has caused a spike in layoffs. The latest figures for jobless claims issued Thursday by the Labor Department remain at levels never seen until the virus struck. Before the pandemic, weekly applications typically numbered around 225,000. Last spring, after nationwide shutdowns took effect, applications for jobless benefits spiked to nearly 7 million, 10 times the previous record high. After declining over the summer, weekly claims have been stuck above 700,000 since September. But we were told that this was only due to the failed policies of the outgoing administration, and things would definitely get much better in the next socialist rule. 2020 was a particularly difficult year for low-wage workers. At this point, even officials in the Federal Reserve admit that the unemployment rate for low-wage workers is over 20%. Unemployment for the lowest-paid workers in the United States is about 20%, a figure that Federal Reserve Governor Lael Brainard said underscores the importance of policy help for the economy. The figure indicates how uneven the recovery has seen since efforts to control the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in the biggest quarterly GDP drop since the Great Depression. How can we make a positive comeback to this? Well, at least more of them have had the opportunity to stay home and not get COVID. So I guess you could say that this unemployment crisis actually had a positive impact on public health. And more Americans are getting the opportunity to stay at home. Here is just an example. Dropbox is cutting its global workforce by about 11%, the company said in an 8K filing released Wednesday. The company's stock was down more than 4.5% in late morning trading. The move will affect 315 people who will be notified by the end of the business day. Of course, as the fear of COVID continues to escalate, American consumers shop less at Walmart and other corporate giants, and US retail sales have dropped for the third month in a row. But this issue will be resolved soon, as more universal basic income controls are on the way. All previous socialist stimulus packages were not enough, and so Joe Biden announces a $1.9 trillion plan to support the economy. Friday offered the first chance for traders to act after President-elect Joe Biden unveiled details of $1.9 trillion plan to prop up the economy. He called for $1,400 cash payments for most Americans, the extension of temporary benefits for laid-off workers, and a push to get COVID-19 vaccines to more Americans. It certainly fit the investors' expectation for a big and bold plan, but markets had already rallied powerfully in anticipation of it. Doesn't that sound great? And Biden also demands a national minimum wage of $15 per hour. Don't worry, this doesn't hurt the restaurant industry at all. I don't know why this sentence is true, but the truth checkers want us to say that. And since both Republicans and Democrats gave up any liability claims a long time ago, no one states that we really do have $27.6 trillion in debt and cannot get more stimulus packages. In fact, thanks to all the reckless expenditures we have made, the budget deficit in December 2020 was more than 10 times the budget deficit in December 2019. The United States government posted a December budget deficit of $144 billion, a record for the month, due to far higher outlays with coronavirus relief spending and unemployment benefits, while revenues ticked slightly higher, the Treasury Department said on Wednesday. The Treasury said the December deficit compares with a $13 billion deficit in December 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic started in the United States. Overall, U.S. national debt has increased by more than $7 trillion under the outgoing administration, and even CNN admits it will go much higher in the Biden era. But the proponents of modern monetary theory assure us that the deficits don't matter, and that we can borrow and spend as much as we want. Since this is true, why don't we pay the incentives much more? Yet, if we are liquidating the republic, why not send $1 billion to everyone? Seriously though, there are millions of Americans who deeply hurt as the United States economy melts around us. I hope you enjoyed my attempt to instill some humor into our situation, but what many Americans are facing right now is not at all funny. At this point, most Americans barely scrape month after month, and some are literally faced with life or death financial decisions. A mother's tearful confession that she can't afford her son's insulin despite working full-time has left commenters deriding the American healthcare system. Katie Schiffer's 10-year-old son was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and requires insulin every 2 hours. But the North Carolina mother was left in tears when she couldn't afford his $1,000 prescription. Can you imagine what it's like to be in his place? Our entire system is crashing, and things will only get worse in the coming months and years. For decades, America has been heading in the wrong direction, and our leaders have made incredibly stupid decisions. There is deep pain all around us now, and the level of suffering will only increase as the US slides even faster towards economic oblivion. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.